Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing a card using some new Lawn Fawn supplies that I got as part of my birthday present, because March is my birthday month. So I have here the Bubbles of Joy, the Scripty Bubble Sentiment, the Bubble Border, and then an oldie but a goodie, the large Slimline with slider die set. Now first of all, I'm going to color in my images, and I'm keeping the coloring quite simple, which I mean with that I am going to use two color combinations for the mice, and actually the one is just a lighter version of the combination that I will use with some darker colors on the other ones. So that's also simple. There are only a few colors that I'm using today for the browns. These will be the light mice, and then I will use E18 as my darkest color on the other ones, and that will actually give me the darker version. So the markers return. It's an easy way to have different color combinations but just using the same markers. Something that I like about this is that you also are sure that they will fit together. Not that a color of skin or anything really needs to fit, it will always fit. It's a neutral color. But well, I wanted to have some warm browns, and this way I have two variations but very close to each other and still so different. So that's what I like. And for the bubbles and the happy, that is a Scripty bubble sentiment, I am going to use exactly the same colors, which is one of my favorites lately. You will already have seen this. Is the G's, the light ones, the G0000, G000, and G00. So that's lately my favorite combination. It's a light one, it's a lot of fun, it's bright, it's vibrant, but at the same time it's soft as well. I just love that. It's like the cracked pistachio, which I will also use in this video. So yeah, cracked pistachio lately is coming back, and I only noticed it after making a few cards that actually I am going to show you some varieties of cards with this minty blue greenish color, depending on how you see the color itself. But I just love it, and it's unintentionally the color that I grabbed lately. So that's coming up. Here you can see the darker variation. On the top mice, well, I started with the shadows a bit wrong. The idea of my shadows was that they were going to be in the direction that the image was facing. So all the backs have the darker color, so it's switching from right and left, but that's perfectly fine. You can choose however your shadows are. Sometimes I also just like it that the center of the card sort of radiates the light source, and then you have light sources in the center, so the left images will be having shadows on the left side, the right on the right. But however you feel comfortable with shadowing, it's all about making the critters come alive, just giving them a cute appearance and all those things. So you just have fun, you color them in. But as you see here, I just added the E18 to the combination I used earlier on the lighter mice to make these darker. And once this one is done, well, I wasn't sure which color I was going to give it, the darker or the lightest, so that's why I only colored it now. For the ears lately, I am really a fan of E11 and E01, or if you have larger surfaces, E13 as well. And it's sort of a muted pinkish color, so it's more towards the brown colors than when you're using a red one, but that can be cute as well, definitely. Cleaning up the places where I went outside the lines, and now I can start on the bubbles. Now there are some wonderful ideas given through the inspiration weeks by Lawn Fawn, where Kelly was showing you how you can actually make some sort of a rainbowy bubble, and I love it. I think I am going to try that out also, but just for my first card, getting to know the stamps a bit. Well, I like to keep it simple, so I also just have this one color not really sure where all the bubbles are going, so I didn't want to color with other with other markers, just to be sure that everything would fit where it was going to end up. But something that seems really lovely to do as well is just to, if you know where your bubbles are going onto your panel, then maybe you can just do a gradient sort of rainbow from the top to the bottom, or the other way around. I don't know, but that seems like a lot of fun. But then, well, that means prepping ahead or thinking ahead of your card, and we're not there yet. So here I'm coloring in the happy. I have no clue how I was going to tackle this, so I just started coloring. I want a bit of different colors, but in the same time it's the sentiment, so it can stand out. It also has a shape, so it's difficult to have like the effect of the bubbles itself there. So for me, I just added in the end my second layer, my darkest color on the left and bottom side, and then I filled up the rest. Blended it out using my two other markers. And then I'm going to add a small amount of pink, just for the one that is letting those bubbles come out of the thingy. I have no clue. I don't even know how it's called in Dutch. Well, so here I have the bubble border. I actually cut it out 3 times. I didn't cut it out completely because I'm making a slimline card. I don't need the whole length of this border. And I'm also adding the same G's on there, with the idea of having the shadows on the right side, except when they are behind the other ones. But it's not realistic, but it's cute, and that's what it's all about, so that's what we are doing. And I did this as well on all the other borders that I cut out. I wanted to have 3. 3 is a lovely number. When you're making cards, you probably noticed already uneven numbers really help, and I personally find 3 really appealing. It's better than 5, in my opinion, better than 7. Just 3. So 3 borders, giving some of the mice a bit of room to walk around, although those are bubbles, so they can pop. Well, not on this card. So those are my borders, and now we are going to start on the background. This is a slimline panel that you can get from the largest die in the large slimline with slider. So you know me, stitching detail. I'm going to mask that off, then I will have that lovely white border around my panel. And once that's masked off, I am going to take my distress inks. So first of all, cracked pistachio. I want the edges to be a bit darker, and then I just want it all over this panel as well. I don't want to have a white panel. And this ink actually appeals really to the eye. Well, I already said it, it's my favorite, but I also use the G's. So it fits perfectly with the markers I use on the bubbles. And I thought that was a great idea. So this card is all the way cracked pistachio, minty green. I think it's gender neutral. You can use it for boys, you can use it for girls. I like it. So this is a stencil that also was released lately by Lawn Fawn, and it is the bubble background stencil. So I decided on having this one, and I wanted to have less bubbles on the bottom of my card, and then going upwards having a bit more of those bubbles clustered around each other. Now I'm first going in with that cracked pistachio, and when I did that I was a bit afraid that it was going to fade out into the background a bit too much. So I ended up with also using Lucky Clover, which is an ink that I don't use enough. I realized that today I am sort of adding a shadow on the right bottom of each of the bubbles. I'm blending it a bit out. This color goes perfectly with the cracked pistachio. I always used Evergreen Bois for that. But then I checked with my bubbles, and I just thought that this color really worked well with the G's as well. So there you have the bubbles, and then I just thought that my edges weren't dark enough with the cracked pistachio, so I just used a tiny amount of this Lucky Clover and I ink blended a bit on the edges. Like this. And then we can remove the purple tape. I just love this moment when the white border is revealed. Trying to not smudge anything while removing, and then you have this. And I must admit, I love it. So I tried something out placement wise, and I ended up with this one. I still have to stamp out the sentiment. Now I'm not going to do anything fancy. I have all the images with the black outline. I'm just going to stamp this part of the sentiment again with the same ink, my Gina K Design Amalgam ink. It's the black ink I use all the time because it works for everything, and I just like not having the wrong ink on my papers when I'm coloring, and now I don't need to think about that. So I'm going to add these bubbles. As you can see here, in the bubble border there is also just a die that cuts out the edge of the bubbles. I did that out of Pearlescent Vellum by Lawn Fawn. I had this since they released it. I haven't used it enough, but with the bubbles it's just the perfect shine. It's only going to be really subtle behind these ones, and there will be some gaps between my layers because bubbles, well, they are not clustered all together, so now you can really see the different lines, the different layers of the bubbles. And then this final one I will put up a bit higher, but first I'm going to trim off the excess already. I sometimes find it difficult with foam to cut it off straight, so I want to have all the guidance of this panel to guide me with that as well. So having that done, I'm gonna take my Scotch 3M foam tape and cut off some squares, rectangles to fit behind the bubbles. Also, I didn't say it yet, but I first trimmed out the Pearlescent Vellum using the large Slimline with slider, so that it also has the stitching detail on the bottom, because you will see it on some areas. And I have the perfect width as well. And then I did the bubble border. Just handy. But the other way around works as well, but I just like it that the stitch detail can run through. With the bubble border I didn't thought that it was necessary, but you can also just cut it onto the sides by also running it through your die cutting machine with the Slimline die as well. But I didn't do that because the bubbles really run through over the card, and I want to have that illusion. Now once everything is on there, you can really see where you can add your liquid glue or whatever glue you want to use without it appearing as soon as it is on there. So that's why I first added it onto the Pearlescent Vellum separately from my card, and then I could add it all together, making sure that the adhesive wasn't showing. Okay, so now it's time to really figure out the final placement of all my critters. So I have 3 layers on the bottom with bubbles. I have 3 mice there. And then I'm just going to add the other mice in the sky. So this one is just perfect for inside the bubble. Well, the other ones work as well, but it's cute. I think that this one is really looking upwards to the sentiment. And then the other mouse, I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but then I just thought that I might be able to combine it with the sentiment like this. So it's peeking from behind and it's sort of leaning on top of the P. It's like when you're on a balcony and you're gazing to the sky and you're leaning on the fence of the balcony, a bit like that. That was what I thought of when I decided on this. So I'm going to add everything. I'm using on the bottom one the Scotch 3M foam tape again, because this way it will have the same height as the bubbles. And then I will add some flat on there. But all the things that I added on top or in the sky, excuse me, in the sky, those I'm all adding with some thin foam squares. I just thought that this was a nice idea. Also the bubbles, as soon as it is floating, thin foam squares. So that's what I did. So I'm doing that. Also the other mouse that is sitting on the bubble borders I am going to adhere flat, and then the rest truly thin foam squares all the way. So I already skipped a bit here because, well, it's always the same. You can already see how many thin foam squares I used from the backings on my desk. Also the sentiment. It's also a bubbly sentiment, so I just thought, well, and once that's on there and all the others, well, then we can add this to a card base and start thinking about all the details. Well, with all the details, I mean all the bubbles that are floating in the air. Well, I'm just going to use a lot of glossy accents. That is what I'm going to do. Lately, I have been able to take a new one out. My previous bottle finally ran out. I was so happy because I get annoyed when things clog and I need to unclog it before I can continue with creating, or, well, I just don't like it. When you're nearly at the end and you already can see how the end result will be, then you just want to move on and really have it finished. No? Well, it's in my case definitely like that. I am now adding glossy accents everywhere. It's crazy how much glossy accents I used, but I truly love it. I have some pictures in the end. I don't have a close-up video. I forgot to do that because I had to go somewhere after making this card. But I am going to share on Instagram a reel. Lately I try to do it as much as possible for also people that aren't watching YouTube, and, well, I don't know, but people watch it, so that's positive. So there I will definitely show some close-ups, some wiggling towards the lightning, but you can see it here a bit as well. So this is my card. I had so much fun with these new items. New mice from Lawn Fawn, amazing. You can combine it with all your other sets and I just love that. I hope that you all have a wonderful day. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I will be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!